Welcome all to this call from Adai in crazy times, but money is always a topic. I'm Devorah Kresniansky from Adai. We founded Adai several years ago to address success in marriages, and more recently we got a grant from the City of New York to address some difficulties in marriage. Increasingly we got a grant from the City of New York to address some difficulties in marriage. Included in that grant is the opportunity to share about some solutions to typical marriage challenges, including money, which turns to be one of the areas where there's some conflict, difference of personalities. And so we'll talk with Chaya Margolin, who's a financial counselor, about different aspects about money. And this talk is specifically for newlyweds and the questions that newlyweds generally come up with. Of course, anyone can listen in and anyone can learn about money in general, but some are connected to issues that newlyweds have brought up to us by sending it in anonymously through our website, and some people asked me questions before. So Chaya, I have lots of questions from lots of newlyweds, and let's just jump right in. First, Chaya, do you want to talk a little bit about what you do to work with your clients?
Sure. So I'm a financial coach. I meet with my clients either up to 3 times or more if they need it. We get them on a budget. Depending on where they're holding in their financial journey. So some of them could be in a lot of debt. Some of them are in no debt. Some of them just don't know how, since everyone's different ages. And we just work on how to get them on their, how to work responsibly with money. And some of them are in a lot of debt. Some of them are in no debt. And just need to figure out how to be financially responsible.
All right, so Chaya, this, like I said at the beginning, this call is going to be more directed to newlyweds. Let's pick on you, for example. What did you do as a newlywed that you wish you would have known better? So let's help people learn from our own mistakes.
Yeah, sure. So we were a mess when we got married. My husband went to Chicago. I worked part-time. We had the entitled. I remember going on LinkedIn one day, and after like 10 minutes, I had spent $400. The next week, I went to Macy's, and I spent another like $400. And my husband's like looking at the receipt, and he's wondering like, what did I buy? And it was a bunch of nothing really. I got pregnant right away. Expenses. Baruch Hashem, my parents helped us a lot. We ate there for Shabbat and we ate there for dinners, but we did not take advantage of the fact that we had that going. We didn't like utilize that. We did a lot of vacations. We went out to restaurants. I didn't actually know how much money I was making every time I got a restaurant. I didn't actually know how much money I was making every time I got a paycheck. I gave it to my husband, for him to deal with it. He was pressured encouraged really to be using credit cards a lot. As we got a little older, our expenses were growing, but our expenses were growing, but our income wasn't growing as fast as our expenses, I would say. I took on like odd jobs while I was taking care of the kids. Right. It hit us really hard after our 3rd child was born. Money conversations were really awkward between us, and I was really getting nervous about the debt. That was growing. Yeah, and that's when I found the Adai and started our debt-free journey.
Okay, can you mute?
Yeah, sure. So that's what I did wrong until we finally were able to put ourselves back together. Baruch Hashem, we were able to do it relatively easy, but I feel like I should.
So let's talk about some of those things that you wish you did differently. You mentioned some of the learnings that you had, and mistakes or learnings or unfortunate choices. Let's talk about some of what you learned.
Sure. So I think our first biggest mistake was the lack of budget. I believe, and I still believe in China, you do deserve to have like a year of like enjoyment and honeymoon, a honeymoon style year.
Oh, it's for newlyweds.
Specifically for newlyweds. Yeah. I think it's integral for a marriage to have that mentality. But I think being mindless about it is the big mistake.
Financial responsibility a little bit more.
But being mindless about it is really the mistake. And you should definitely make a budget because you could probably enjoy the luxuries, but also thinking about your future and thinking about, your present-day needs.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what would be included in a newlywed budget specifically?
So everyone's different. Like everyone has different expenses. Some people have to pay their rent. Some people have full-time jobs. So what we do is the basic expenses is your house, food, insurances, life insurance. I want to put in also. Utilities, and then start saving. Other things also like things that are coming up. So saving for. Other things also like things that are coming up. So saving for pay stuff or saving for upcoming events of the year, as well as saving for the future.
Okay, you mentioned life insurance. I really want to talk about that later, but let's just jump into it now. Why would a newlywed so young and
sure. So life insurance is ideal to start when you're young, because it's especially if you're healthy, it is extremely cheap when you're young. You can buy it when you're young, and then you can have it for when your kids are. As you get older, it won't grow in expense. If it's a term life insurance plan, it doesn't grow in price. You just pay this monthly fee every month, and it's very, very cheap. As possibly health problems start coming in, not that they do, but if they do, an age just counts in. The price does go up. And you never want, you or your spouse to be in a position where, chas v'shalom, something happens and you're not prepared for it.
No, of course not. What a week to say that. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
But let's talk about like bigger expenses, like you said, like newlyweds and having like a nice Shana Rishona. What about like honeymoons or larger vacations? Is that a good idea, or should you have a time together but do something much smaller? Good idea, or should you have a time together but do something much smaller?
So every couple, again, is different, but you have to first start off with the budget. Make a budget, see how much you can actually afford. Everyone's income is different as newlyweds. So as long as you can afford what you absolutely need, and you're saving a little bit, you can definitely what you absolutely need, and you're saving a little bit, you can definitely afford to put some on the side. And saving a little bit is different for every single person.
Is it, when you say saving a little bit, is it a ratio of the income that's coming in, a ratio of the amount of money that came out of the, what are some things to consider as you're thinking about how much to save?
So the wedding money could be a consideration, but in addition to that, it would be saving if you have extra income after that. And yeah, there's a ratio. Every number is different. Every family is different. I like to say for newlyweds, it's relative to your income, so it's hard to say.
Mm-hmm. But what are things to take into consideration as you're deciding how much to save versus how much to spend? Besides just, like I'm thinking maybe something along the lines of what are your short-term goals, long-term goals? What?
Yeah, so some short-term goals would be things throughout the year. So Pesach, summer vacation, things like that. If you're not working, short-term goals would be also if the woman is pregnant, you have to start saving. Not that you have to buy anything, but save for a potential birth, in general, or the baby's time, or when she'll be on maternity leave. Longer term would be saving for a house, then saving for like investments for the future, long-term investments.
So while we're talking about Shana Rishona, specifically, like having a little bit more of a relaxed year, this question came in about working full-time or working less time, but having a little bit more relaxed more relaxed year or more time together. What consider as you're having such a conversation?
So this is very much like a partnership conversation. Like I can't be the one to make this decision for any couples, but as a couple, and money should not be the only consideration in any decision you make. There's everything that goes involved together with it. But the couple should decide if they can afford to work part-time. If they can, that's great. If they can't, what are ways that they'll be able to enjoy life, working full-time? If he's in Kailal, or if he wants to be in Kailal, can the couple manage that? Can she afford to support him? Things like this. This is a decision that they have to make together. Can she afford to support him? Things like this. This is a decision that they have to make together.
So in other communities, I've seen that people who really wanted to go to Kollel live very, very frugally, but they were able to do it. Like people live in basements.
Right,
So
so
there are ways to move that money around.
Definitely, there's sure ways the couple has to be okay with making these sacrifices, and if they can, definitely go ahead and do it.
What we have found in our community, and many of them from our communities, is that there's that comparison, or that as a newlywed, I should be able to do this, or look how many other newlyweds are able to do it. There's this conflict in conversation. What can you talk to that a little bit?
So that's not just a newlywed problem. It's it's an all age problem. But the problem that's just like if you're jealous of somebody else's, don't be, because there's no point. What can we do to make our marriage better? And what can finances aside and finances included, what can we do to make our marriage better? What can make both of us happy within the realms of what we have?
So this question came in. What are some things that newlyweds spend money on that they end up regretting?
That's a good question. Probably one of the things I did was clothing. I bought so much clothing, and then I got pregnant. And then all that went to waste. And you don't really realize there's a lot of like this mindless spending, and it's not specifically that you're not spending on the right things, but a lot of it is just because you didn't budget for it. Like you might not have needed to buy it. When you make a budget and you prepare for an expense, then that's great. But if you're just buying because it's you're not thinking, that's really when the problem arises.
How much money?
Exactly.
Coffee costs. Did you ever do that? Like actually come up 5 days a week? How much coffee?
Yeah. So in my house, my husband used to go on Kingston on his way to work and would buy a coffee every single day. And at the end of the month, he was spending, up to like $45, and that's, it was getting too much for us. So we now have a coffee maker at home, and he makes coffee at home. I stopped going out to eat with my friends for lunch because that was getting very expensive, and we now have lunch dates, in where it's much cheaper. Things where it's much cheaper. Things like that, which were just mindless spending, and you don't even think about it because it's $2, $3, $4, but it just really does add up. Manicures, pedicures, the weekly ones, that's something I used to do, got really expensive. I was spending over $100 a month on that. Got really expensive. I was spending over $100 a month on that.
Look at that.
I don't know. I could tell you my whole list. But I don't know if it's. I have a huge list of things that maybe we shouldn't be spending money on, but for everyone, it's different of what they want to sacrifice.
But in other words, life is expensive, so there's going to be sacrifice, and it's worth. And if I can put on my Adai ad hat about having conversations. What's important to one, the other one may not understand at all. So starting from gender. So one may not understand, a husband may not understand why his wife wants a manicure. He may not have his sisters, and mother may not have it, but it is important. You can't just dismiss it and say, oh, just stop doing that. It's a conversation around that as well.
Right. So what we did also, and what I encourage my clients to do, is when you're sitting down to make your budget, you do the absolute necessities first, like the things that you can't live without to survive. After that, you start putting in things that you could, and if you see you can't afford them, then you should take turns in what you're both willing to sacrifice. And it shouldn't be all the wife has to sacrifice everything or the husband has to sacrifice everything. They each have to take a turn as to what they're going to sacrifice. So for me and my husband, it was he stopped buying coffee, which was so easy for him and so convenient for him, and I stopped buying paper goods, and I washed the dishes. That was, each of us gave a sacrifice there. Each of us, for example, he could, go to the gym, instead of going to the gym, do in-house workouts, or I can't even think of examples, but whatever, taking turns and each of you sacrificing. And again, if you feel like something is important for you and your husband doesn't understand it, the two of you have to work out to make it work. The two of you have to work out to make it work. That it's not. This is not a luxury for me. This is a need for me. And that sometimes that's okay, even if he can't wrap his head around it or she can't wrap his head around it. They should both make it work. But the conversation.
What do you think of? What do you say to the idea of combining all monies together, or having some discretionary money at each one? Like we went had a call, and you had some really good insights in that area.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I didn't hear your question. Could you say it again? Sorry, ask it again.
I was talking about, should we combine all money into one bank account, discretionary money that we don't have to report to each other every last penny that you've spent? Last time we had a call.
So what I encourage people to do also is, it doesn't really matter if you have a joint account or two separate accounts. You should, as a couple, have multiple accounts, at least two, maybe even three with other expenses, but it doesn't really matter if they're joint as a couple or not, but you can have, I like to give my couples, give yourself either cash or a credit card where you're not really, or a debit card where you're not really husband and gets it up, but each of us has $200 a month or whatever it is that your family can afford to spend on whatever it is, or whatever it is that your family can afford to spend on whatever it is, and whatever you want. And it could be anything. It could be the biggest luxury or not, but this is your fun money, and you can spend it on what you want, and you don't have to say, I feel guilty for spending it because it wasn't responsible, but this was where I was able to splurge on whatever it was. But as long as that splurge money, this was where I was able to splurge on whatever it was. But as long as that splurge money, in a sense, I have on our budget line, there's the Chaya money, there's the debit money, and we each have our money where we get to splurge on whatever we want, and we don't have to notify him that I spent $4 here and $10 here. It's just the money that I spent without thinking about. It was my splurges, but I spent without thinking about. It was my splurges, but it was accounted. I could only splurge up to X amount of money.
Right, and I think the last time you were also talking about that it's not only you don't have to report it, the one who's if it's not your money and not that you're spending it, you don't even comment on how they spent their money. But it's just their money. Or if they want to save it from buying each other a gift, they can do that too.
Exactly. Exactly. And you don't have to spend your money. You could save your money to save it for a gift. You can do what you want with your money. It's kind of like your own allowance.
Let's talk a little bit about investment. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. Moving on.
Right now with coronavirus and the stock market is moving all over the place, but let's go back 3 weeks ago when the world was a little bit more normal.
Right. So I was actually going to say about coronavirus, people are pulling out of their stock. They're terrified of the stock market. For me personally, I'm letting my stock stay there and sit and calm itself down because the stock market goes up and down. The stock market goes up and down, and especially during coronavirus, it's going up and down on a daily basis. Crashing and then going up. We're investing long term, so we're not even thinking about the short term. But this coronavirus will pass, and our money will grow over the next 20, 30 years, and we're fine with that. And we might lose a little 20, 30 years, and we're fine with that. And we might lose a little, gain a little, but over the next 20, 30, 40 years, it's going to be growing constantly because that's how the stock market works. Was that your question?
Yeah, but besides stock, let's just talk about a little other ways to invest, or want to talk a little bit about the other funny? So
mutual funds are the way to. Mutual funds or index funds are the way to go. They're basically either the index funds are all the stocks and mutual funds are 100 of the really, really good stocks, and you're just there long term to let it grow. There's other ways to invest, like real estate availabilities, but it would be, I don't know how to discuss them. I don't know which one specifically do you want.
No, I just wanted to even just mention the different names, not just a list. Just bonds, stocks. Just what are things to possibly for other people to look into as far as investing. You don't have to give it your insight.
So I don't really recommend anything other than mutual and index funds or real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. This question just came in. We touched on it a little bit about when the couple finds out that they're pregnant, and they should prepare financially for the expenses. What kind of expenses are we talking about so that they can really wrap their head around how much they have to save or prepare for?
So I always say to just if you're in the process of getting out of debt at the moment, I would say for right now, just stop getting out of debt. Take a pause on your debt snowball, which is what we call getting out of debt. Take a pause on that. Thinking about when we saved up money for our babies, we saved. I didn't find out if it was a boy or a girl, but I assumed that I might have a 50-50 chance that I would have a bris. So I saved up for how much a bris would cost. And then I saved up just money to have available. Right when the baby's born, you have to buy a this or a that, a car seat, the little, if you need any clothing, whatever it is, to save up for that for when the baby is born. Other than that, there's and in case of somebody needing maternity leave and not able to work after that, they need to save for if they're not getting paid, or if just they need to hire extra help during that time to save up for that time.
Another thing that I think when we were talking about this last time is some people have assumptions that of their parents' help, whether it's going to be for the baby or even just in general marriage, and it's assumptions or wishes and it's not 100% clarified, and then surprises happen. It's going to pay for the Shalom Zachar because they paid for two other, your older brother's kids,
right.
Shalom Zachar, and then you're surprised with a new bill because your parents can't
right,
do
so
it.
I Baruch Hashem, have such wonderful parents and in-laws, and they're, very helpful, but I don't rely on their help at all, ever. I always assume that it's my responsibility to pay anything it is. It's an extra for us, and we'll put it towards whatever it is that we need to at that time. But I never go with the assumption that Mom's going to pay for that, or Child's going to pay for that. I'm free to go, because you never can expect it. You should never expect or rely on that money, because it's a gift, and you should treat it like a gift if and when it comes.
3 weeks ago, people could have been promising things on coronavirus, and people's incomes have changed. So until you actually have it, don't count on it.
Exactly. Don't assume it's there until you have it in your hands.
So Chaya, coronavirus. I don't know. We were preparing for this because coronavirus is moving along so quickly. But do you have any insights about this next few weeks, months?
Just a few. Okay, I said about the stock market. Don't freak out. Don't pull your money out, because the stock market will. This is a short-term problem. Pull your money out, because the stock market will. This is a short-term problem, and moving your stocks out of the stock market can damage you long-term if you move your stocks out. Just ride the wave is what they call it. Ride the wave for stocks. Right now, I'm very lucky that because I've been financially responsible here. Lucky that because I've been financially responsible here, I've saved up money for an emergency, and now would be the time to be using our emergency funds if we need it. If you can't go to right now, if you have an emergency fund and you can't go to work, and your work is a service-based job where you're not getting paid if you don't do the work, now would be the time to use that you really need it. So in these types of cases, hopefully you have an emergency fund and you can use it if you need to. You're not able to work because you're a service fund, try to find another part-time job that you could do indoors to replace that income. And one of the other things I'm reading too much financial help or just sense is don't panic buy, and don't splurge right now on shopping, because the food will always be there. You don't have to stock up on toilet paper, because toilet paper will be there soon. That's something I learned in the past.
Yeah, and we are seeing a lot of people buying I just need it. I'll overpay for it. Just let me have it.
Right. Right. So
And
I don't think the overreacting in that sense is necessary. Right. I don't think the overreacting in that sense is necessary.
And then there's people just buying. I don't know what I'm going to need.
What I did notice, and Baruch Hashem, we live in Crown Heights, is if you have an emergency fund and you're able to use it, great. Don't impulse buy. But our community is really coming through to help if people need it, and all of the organizations are really coming in. So don't buy something in the event that you may need it. If you do need it and you can't afford it at that time, when it comes, don't force yourself into debt for that.
Right. The other thing that I've learned, especially with some newlyweds, when they do get into some sort of financial situation, that they don't want to admit it to other people. And so they don't seek the support. They don't want to admit it to themselves, and it's just the spiral gets deeper and deeper and deeper.
Right. So admitting it to yourself is not. Sorry.
So the question is what would if someone didn't yet take care of themselves responsibly, and now they are starting to think, hey, maybe we should have done things differently. What would be a first step to getting themselves back on track?
Sure. So the first step is really hard, and it's a lot of, you have to it's like looking at yourself in the mirror, and it's a little bit embarrassing. Even get out a sheet of paper or put a spreadsheet on the computer and make a list of all of your expenses, and then to look at your past like credit card bills, I guess, to see what you've been spending money on, to know, oh, this is something that I shouldn't have been doing or should have been doing. There's no but there shouldn't be sense oh, I did something terrible, I feel so guilty. But today is a new day, we're starting new fresh. Here's the list. Today is a new day, we're starting new fresh. Here's the list. This is how we move forward. Making a budget is the first step to anything. Making two things. Say to yourself, we are not borrowing money ever again, and then start making a budget to work out the next successful road to being debt-free.
What are your thoughts about it takes money to make money, or it takes money to save money? Like, in other words, spending some money to speak to a professional to get it right first time and not try to, fumble through it on your own.
Right, so I'm a financial coach. Yeah, I'm a financial coach, so I'm definitely going to recommend financial coaching. But you should not do it if you're going to go into debt for it. You should try to raise money to go to the financial coach if you need to. Never go into debt for it. Don't think, okay, I'm going to start this new diet and and I'll first do this and that. Can see their problem, but they don't see that it's a problem yet. But a third party who has an objective point of view can actually see that there's a problem and can see the positive changes that can be made. Can see, oh, you're doing that wrong. You're doing this wrong. You should be doing this and this way, or this is not actually an expense, or you can slice this expense in half. And just the third party can actually see that when you and your husband can't see that.
Mm-hmm. So it is, in my estimation, so it's a shortcut to get it right by paying somebody to get the support so that you don't keep getting into debt or denial or the wrong spiral.
For sure. I usually see my clients the first 3 months of their, getting debt-free journey. We sit together for 3 months, one after the other, and after the third month, they're ready to go on their own. They're confident enough to, do this on their own. They'll call me for help if they need to, but we don't need, it's not they can move on their own and to become financially free.
Mm-hmm. If someone wanted to learn more, or just to Google, some people have a lot of time now, some people don't, but what's some of your favorite financial websites?
So DaveRamsey.com will have some proverbs, and he has some lines from the Bible, but, you look past it. He's excellent. He's very inspirational. KosherOnABudget.com is really great, and I think they both have podcasts. Dave Ramsey is the one who got me on my, helped me get on my, not deep, but his website and podcast is the one that got me on my feet. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, off the top of my head, those two are fantastic. There's Facebook groups also. There's a Frum and Frugal Facebook group that I'm on. That is also very helpful to many people in the community, because a lot of the issues are from issues. Many people in the community, because a lot of the issues are from issues, and it really helps when you have a Frum person that can help answer the questions for you.
The other thing that I have found in our Frum community specifically is that people try to get away with not paying for things because they should try to, let's say, just be straight up tuition. Why should I pay full tuition if someone else is not paying full tuition? And that whole mentality, I think, is, in my estimation, is backwards. We should be thinking about how can I make more money so that I could pay full tuition, not how could I hide things, almost as much energy.
True.
What?
Yeah, that's really true. And people who are scared to make more money so that they get off benefits is such a backwards way of thinking, because you'd rather just make more money to afford paying for your food and paying for your health care, and then also pay for other things as well, instead of being limited to, I can't really afford to go on a vacation as well, instead of being limited to, I can't really afford to go on a vacation, or I can't really afford to do anything because I want to keep my food stamps and my Medicaid. Definitely think big and think, and I think it's a very Jewish way of thinking, to think big, to think how can I make more money so that I could afford more things, as opposed to I need to make sure I only have so I could only get the benefits. And same with tuition. Work as hard as you can to be able to afford the tuition, and then give more on tzedakah. Tzedakah is always the big thing that I think is the goal. So how can I make more money so I can give a lot of tzedakah?
Right. Chaya, okay, so one other question. At what point should we start really saving for a down payment for a house?
I say right away. But you have to, again, making your budget and then seeing if there's room for it in your budget as fast as possible. And if not, try to make room. But again, there's a lot of things I'm saying to try to do, but definitely if you have your teenagers in your 2-bedroom apartment, you want to move out as fast as possible.
What about buying a property for investment with the wedding money? Wow, that's nice. Wedding money, if you can buy property with that.
If you can, that's great. But to think about it in this way, properties, if you can, that's great. But to think about it in this way, properties are very, very expensive to manage also. So it's not just about buying it and then you're good to go. There's buying it, there's the maintenance, there's the manager has to take care of it if you're using it as an investment. So you have to make sure you're in a financially stable spot to do that. Also, usually you should yourself first before working on real estate investments. That's not a guaranteed statement that I just said, but that's usually the case.
Okay, this couple wrote in that they're managing to put in $500 into savings every month. Do I still need to budget, or can I rely on the fact because we're not big spenders?
So you should definitely budget still, because you could find room in your budget for possibly more than saving $500. And there's possibly things that you're spending on that you don't need to spend on, even if you're not an overspender, you still might be spending on things that are not necessary. You still might be spending on things that are not necessary.
And then you could be spending on more fun things.
Right, either on more fun things, or you could save more for vacations or for long-term savings.
Well, vacations are fun things.
Yeah. Mhm.
What about when we have different personalities? When you talk to different personalities of money.
Are you saying different personalities and the husband and wife are different personalities?
Different money personalities.
Sorry?
Different money personalities.
Like the husband and wife are different. Yeah, so that gets very hard and on the same page on money. They're not on the same page, but they're not in the same mindset. One of them is usually cheaper. One of them is more of a spender. One of them is usually more mathematically inclined. One of them is more, and they can do the numbers. One of them can't even look at a spreadsheet. My husband and me are like that. I love charts and spreadsheets. He can't look at them. So we do what works for us, and you do it whoever has the strength in it should basically lead the money process. But you should both be involved in it. But if one spouse of the couple needs more space, they're supposed to be on the same page. But if one spouse is okay taking charge because the other one can, then that's great. And if one couple needs a little spacing, then that's great. And if one couple needs a little spacing, can't know numbers like that and it stresses them out, the other one should be taking more control. But at the same time, they have to be on the same page for the same goal.
Mm-hmm. What if one wants to spend more on Shabbos foods? So one wants sushi and one wants gefilte fish. Honey.
Right. So they have to make a decision in the sense that, like, Shabbos is going to cost us X amount of money, and now how are we going to make sure we can afford that with including the sushi, but sacrificing on something else? All of these things are a give and take. Everything in a budget is a give and take.
So once a week conversation about the budget?
In the beginning, it should be once a week. Once you get the hang of it and you're like experts at it, it could be once a month. My husband and I sit once a month. It's very short. We have a tea and we sit and we make a budget for the month. It's a couple of minutes of our time is spent on the budget and the rest is just talking. But it's just to make sure that, and we've been doing this for years, but because it's something that we take seriously and it's something that we'll always take seriously. It's something that's important to do. Make sure we know that our month is going to be set to go, and then we could calm down for the rest of the month. We know that we can afford X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any ideas for budgeting on the phone or online?
So I love the Google spreadsheet, which is I have on my phone and my husband's phone and on the computer, so that whenever I'm walking in and out of the store, I can mark it down. It's always on me. It's always available. The other ones people really like. I've tried them. It wasn't for me, but people really like something called. I've tried them. It wasn't for me, but people really like something called Every Dollar. People also love something called You Need a Budget, and the initials are YNAB. It connects to your bank account. People also like Quicken or Mint. Or I think they're the same thing now.
Mm-hmm.
The first two are the top ones people like, but I really like the spreadsheet on my phone.
You're talking about a general Google spreadsheet. It's not a particular app or anything.
No. I download sheets on my phone, and it's the Google spreadsheets. Yeah.
Oh, that anyone can have.
Yeah, it's free and it's easy, and it's. I find it. I'm a bit of a micromanager, so I didn't like when I tried those apps. I didn't like how they did the work for me because I didn't like how they did it. So the spreadsheet I can really do properly.
So Chaya, maybe we can share like a column. What would?
Sure. Let me open up. Okay, so I have my mortgage. I have my, hold on one second, let me just open it up so I can really give you, okay, so every month I make a new one in the sense that the first like 12 budget items are the same. There might be different numbers to them, but they change from month to month. Like for example, we just had Purim last week, so I have a Purim budget for things that how much Purim costed me for the Shalach, and it was, not so expensive. And like the kid stuff, whatever. So I have my, like the basic things like mortgage, maintenance, I have tuition, I have the life insurance, health insurance, mortgage, maintenance, I have tuition, I have the life insurance, health insurance, and then there's utilities, electricity, internet, cell phone, gas. Then I have my grocery bill. A really good one is my miscellaneous column, which is, it's for things that you didn't think to write about, but you need it. Like I think 2 months ago, my daughter came home, she needed school pictures this month. And I didn't think about school pictures because and I needed to pay for it tomorrow. So I was able to put that from my miscellaneous column. Or like you ran out of light bulbs or whatever. I don't know what people put on the miscellaneous, but it's whatever something you forgot to budget for, but it's not an emergency, but it's smallish and cheapish that you can budget for. I also have my tzedakah. When I get my miser out, I pay it like a bill, so it's something that I already know to put in. I have date night. We have the fun money. We have a medical expense bill for not in addition to the insurance, but this is for if we have to go to the doctor. These would be our copays or other expenses. I have a kid for this month. I have a kid clothing budget for Pesach clothing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and if you're saving up for the bungalow or something like that, that would be basically you have to save up a whole year for that.
Well, yeah, bungalows are pretty pricey. And
if you're saving up for the bungalow or something like that, that would be basically you have to save up a whole year for that.
Well, yeah, bungalows are pretty pricey. And then going upstate itself is just a pricey event. But yeah, that's so then I also have my savings account and my savings line in my budget where I save money, and then I divide that up by bank account. If you want, also there's a really great bank account, Capital One 360, where you can have as many bank accounts as you want in your one account, and it's free, and they have a really good interest rate. And you can, so I have like one of them is my summer savings, bar mitzvah money for my son's bar mitzvah, things like that. I all have divided up in the savings account.
Then you just sprinkle a little bit in each one every month.
Yeah, and it depends on how necessary, what's upcoming, what's closer, what needs to be saved for faster or slower. But that's called Capital One 360.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's on my phone, so it's really easy to use. And I have it attached to my regular bank account.
Okay, this one came in. Keeping track of Cash App and PayPal. Keeping track of Cash App and PayPal. The money goes in and out so quickly.
So they both are still connected. They're both still connected to your bank app, though. So you can still see that money came in and out.
But I guess there wasn't a question attached to that, but talking about how easy it is to not keep track of that, or how easy it is to spend it. It's like it's right in your phone, and you can be standing.
Right. That's right, and that's why they created it. They want you to spend money faster. But yes, you should have maybe a budget. I don't know. This isn't specifically a problem for me, but you should have a budget of whatever my Cash App account is what I send out to people. But definitely keep track of it as it comes in and out of your bank account.
I mean, the other thing is just to really take account that if we're really having money coming into your Cash App that is income, that is income. So even though it's coming in,
for sure, yeah.
how does if your friends are reimbursing each other?
Right. I misunderstood the question as considering it as income. It's more like friends to friends. I don't really use cash.
No. I wasn't first talking about it. Then I'm just saying if some of it is coming in as income, just because it's going in and out of Cash App very quickly, you still have to be cognizant that it is income.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting Cash App very quickly. You still have to be cognizant that it is income.
Correct. Right. Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting, if you're making that money from income, and you're getting $100, you can't really spend out $100 because some of it's going to be taxable with your 1099.
Right. So I actually right, and I actually wanted to end off pretty like a pretty important thing that where I was right, and I actually wanted to end off pretty like a pretty important thing that where I was mentioning budget a lot, but I didn't mention the most important part is you can only spend how much money you have. So let's say you're making $5,000 a month between your husband and yourself. That's a random number I just picked out of the hat. You could only spend, including savings, up to $5,000 a month. Like once you hit that number, you can't spend anymore. So even if your Cash Apps want you to pay money and you're capped out, you can't spend that money. When you're making your budget, always know how much money am I making, and I can only when I'm building my budget, I can only spend up to that number. It's called the zero-based budget. We build down to zero. Everything.
Yeah, but I think that one of the things that people don't take into account is taxes.
So right, so I'm talking about so for two things. If people are on their net pay after if they're getting a W-2, then that's easy to account for. If you're a 1099 worker or you have your own line of business, always save 25% of it for taxes, and then taxes may be a little more, a little less, but it's 25% is usually about the correct number to put away. And then when tax season comes, you're not going to be shocked. Like, where am I going to get the pay?
Right. Wow, so much to think about on top of everything else that Shana Rishona is. But this money part is very important. It's actually how we sustain ourselves. Yes, like I said, man can't live on love alone.
Right.
You need to have that bread and a little bit of but a little bit of leeway. So it's really important to get that balance and to have that conversation. And to have that conversation often.
Right.
Chaya, you said a lot, so this definitely is being recorded and people can listen to it again and again and break it down to small parts. And investment opportunities, even though you have just a very short list of things that you recommend, or the list of apps and things like that will be also listed on the website, adai.org/past-events, and this event will be listed together with all the other past events that we had. So Chaya, thank you very much. Bishop, do you want someone to contact you directly?
Sure. It could be my email, chayamargolin@gmail.com, or my phone number, 718-962-5033.
All right. Thank you, Chaya, and everyone. Thank you. Good night, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. It was very helpful.
Thank you.
We hope you all learned something from this.